All right, good morning, traders. Today is, good morning, Melinda and Terry. Today is, it's Cinco de Mayo. It's May 5th, 2025. Good morning, visitors. Good morning, traders. Thank you for being here. Hey, I want a big shout out to everybody out there in podcast land, cyber land, digital land, everybody out there that subscribes to my content, follows my content, finds the value in my content. Thank you for all of your kind words. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I want to thank all the members for their subscriptions. We don't take those for granted. Try to provide valuable content with actionable trades every single day that provide profits. All right, let's get going. My SPY pivot this morning is 560. Is that right? 566.40. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. SPY, Diamond Dow, FNGA, and QQQ, aka the NASDAQ 100, all in daily uptrends. Fab 5, that would be SPY, Diamond Dow, FNGA, QQQ, and the IWM. All right, they all made, all of them made higher lows and higher highs, closing over bullish traps. Over their hooking 17s, they're hooking up. SPY closed with a 2-hour uptrend, 10-minute downtrend. Gold's still in a daily uptrend. Gold made a higher high and a higher low, closing under a bearish trap and under the 17 EMA. Silver still in a downtrend, made an outside day. That's a higher high and a lower low, closing under a bearish trap and under the 17 EMA. USO in a downtrend. That's our petroleum crude oil, made an inside day. That's a lower high and a higher low, closing under a bearish trap under the 17 EMA. UNG still in a downtrend, no surprise there. All right, made a higher high and a higher low, closing over a bullish trap but under the flat 17 EMA. US dollar index still in a downtrend. We like that. We just like some certainty or some closure on these tariffs. All right, that would really help kick things off. All right, SPY max pain for today. Anyways, dollar closed near 99.99 area. SPY max pain for today 555 with a put to call ratio of about 1.4 puts to each call that expires today at 4:15. All right, let's go take a look at some charts. All right. Margarita Mondays. All right. So SPY. Let's take a look at it on the 10-minute chart. Yesterday, you can see the 3 EMA kind of waffling back and forth. Consolidation here. We made like a double top on the 15-minute. You can see we got a top here and a top here. Almost a triple top right there. So henceforth, failure to make a higher high. We're coming down and going to probably check the lows. All right, so we'll see what happens there. So we were in the middle of an open gap right now. Price action. Gap fill is going to be 558.41. I'm kind of expecting a gap fill to happen. All right, anyways, we got a 10-minute downtrend coming into the close on Friday. Let's take a look at the 2-hour chart. 2-hour uptrend coming into the close on Friday. See where the 8 EMA is here on the 2-hour chart. That's at 562.61. So price action's right at the 8 EMA on the 2-hour chart currently. I like that 2-hour uptrend. I really like when I find a 10-minute uptrend inside of a 2-hour uptrend inside of a daily uptrend. We got the daily uptrend. Okay, we had the 2-hour uptrend on Friday. And we had the 10-minute uptrend on Friday. That worked out really nice. All right, so let's take a look at the daily chart. And on the daily chart, we got a higher high and a higher low, closing over a bullish trap. It's a bullish trap because the 3 is on top of the 8. All 3 of them, the price, the 3, the 8, all on top of a rising or the hooking 17 EMA there. Okay, if we look at it down here with the quad lines on it, okay, you can see price action is up, knocking on the door of the bullish upper third. All right, almost there. We almost broke into it if we didn't have this pullback we had this morning here. All right, so there's SPY still in the neutral zone. It's in an uptrend because we made a higher low right here. See the higher low? And we made a higher high. So there's our higher high. This is the last high right here, when price went up to there and then pulled back. So we made a higher high. This is the last low. We made a higher low. That puts us on the daily chart in an uptrend, okay? If we look at this on the 2-day chart, we don't have any highs up over the 17. The first one we come to is the all-time high. So we got to go all the way up there to take out the 2-day high right there in order to get this back into an uptrend. Okay, on the 3-day, notice all the way back up here, still in a downtrend on the 3-day and the 2-day and the weekly. Okay, notice, see the weekly? We took out this low, we took out this low. See them? They poke through the 17. That's these green dots right here. Okay, so they got a weekly low. We made a lower low. See that? They took out that low, and that low, and even this low over here. Look at that. Okay, so price action came all the way down here, made a lower low. On the monthly chart, okay, we have still in an uptrend. In order to negate the uptrend, all right, they would have to come down here and take out this low right here. All right, so it's a long ways off. But I just want to point this out. That right there, even though that's a red candle, okay, that's an extremely bullish candle. You don't know it because it's hidden. What happened in there, if I had my drawing tools out, okay, maybe take me a second to get them. All right, you had what we call like a red move down. All right, so half this was a red move down, a little bit thicker than that, maybe like this. See, so half this was a red move down like this. All right, but then we turned around and we went all the way back up. Okay, what makes that an extremely bullish candle is, okay, if we had a candle, let's say we had a candle like this, all right, and that was a monthly candle, all right, that would be an extremely bullish candle on the monthly chart, right? Okay, but check this out. They did this in half the time that it took to do this. That's what makes that an extremely bullish candle. Okay, because they went down and they double timed all the way back. All right, so look out. They get some follow through on this candle. You could be looking at tackling the all-time highs, maybe even 650. I mean, all it would take is a tweet or something and we could be there. Maybe some certainty on the tariffs, all right, and we could possibly be back up there. We'll see, all right? But I just want to point that out, even though that looks ominous, that is an extremely bullish candle right there. All right, so that's SPY on the monthly chart. We're still in an uptrend, okay? So let's take a look at the game plan, all right? Let's take a look at the game plan, and we got that over here. Take a look at it on the 5-minute chart. All right, SPY pivot was 566.40 on the game plan. 566.40 above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. Okay, the red erases green, which we've already done. Yeah, red erases green, which we've already done. You see, all of this would have been the green. Okay, from this move, from this bullish engulfing candle all the way up to there, that would have been red erases green. So now we're taking a look at, here's the red comes in, we got that triple top, and you can see where price is right now. That is a red erases green event right there. Okay, but the market wasn't open for us to trade it, but right there was red erases green. That was an entry to the downside. Okay, now down here we have a gap that hasn't been filled. Price action currently here. And you can see we have all of this, all the way down to those dashes. All right. All this is an open gap. Okay. And even lower than that, we have another open gap just below it. and that is from here down to right about there where this, you can't see it because it's covered by the 3 EMA, where this candle opens. So we are in the middle of a huge double gap here. Okay, huge double gap. All right, so 555 could be our target today. And I will be looking at 555, probably some 1 DTE calls in addition to some 555 4 DTE calls. All right, that's what I'm going to be looking at to trade today. Okay, so SPY on the game plan. Let's take this off because it's getting a little messy up here. Okay, and if we look, SPY underneath 564.50, which we already are under, all right, was our first red erases green entry. On the bullish side, should the bulls recover this, and they might, they could, all right, we have 10-minute uptrend over the pivot. First entry price, that would be over 568, would be our bullish green erases red entry right up there, okay? I like Friday options, all right? I've always liked Friday options. I like Friday options because they got more open interest. More open interest for me means higher liquidity. More liquidity means tighter bid-ask spreads and less slippage on my stops, or it's easier for me to get filled on my orders, okay? So on that note, I like 4 DTE calls or puts and 11 DTE calls or puts because those would line up with Friday. I like $5 to $20 out of the money. I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP. I like 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. I like the strikes for my Friday options to be on increments of 5, okay? So in other words, I would like 560 strike puts, suppose I'm playing it to the downside, or 555 strike puts, maybe even 550 strike puts, okay? Suppose when we get the downside. Let's take a look just on the pre-market for a second, okay? And what do we have? We have consolidation under consolidation. That's a bearish environment, okay? So we have what we call a bear flag. Prices move down, and it's only moved over to the right so far. They have not recovered much at all. So as long as they stay, all right, down in this lower third, okay, they stay in this lower third. In other words, underneath this pink line, I'm going to continue to be bearish. Okay, I'm going to continue to be bearish. All right, I'm going to block off the first 15 minutes, and I think there's a chance price is going to come down and test the bottom of this candle, and it may waffle around for a bit, and it may come all the way down to 555. If we get here and there's still a whole lot of time left in the day, all right, I will definitely leave some trailers that come all the way down to 555. Okay, and those would be the 555 puts. All right, so there's SPY on the 5-minute with the pre-market open, looking at currently a bear flag inside of our big bull flag. Okay, because notice if we pull this all the way over, price is in the upper third from this low up to this high. Okay, so we got a little mini bear flag inside of the bull flag. Let's not lose sight of the bigger picture here. Okay, we're in a 2-hour uptrend and a daily uptrend, and we're currently in, from the last low to the last high, the upper third. Okay, so that is bullish. All right, so we'll see if they're going to do some gap filling today. We'll find out. Maybe, maybe not. All right, so there's SPY. Let's take a look at QQQ. All right, QQQ got the same thing going on. Notice little bear flag inside of the big bull flag. Okay, little mini bear flag inside of the bull flag. We'll see what happens here. Okay, let's take a look at the game plan. All right, we'll look at that over here and zoom in on it. Take a look at it right on this one right here. All right, let me zoom out just a little bit. Again, price underneath 487.15 was my bearish red erases green entry. My pivot was 488.55. Above it, I'm a bull. Below it, I'm a bear. on the QQQ. I have green erases red. In other words, this pullback, they come all the way back up here to this double top on the 15-minute chart over 490.80. That's my bullish green erases red entry. For options, okay, I'm going to like the same options as I do for SPY. Okay, I'm going to want 4 DTE Friday options or 11 DTE Friday options. I like them $5 to $20 or $5 to $15 out of the money because I got a small account. All right, and I like 10-minute uptrends over VWAP and 10-minute downtrends under VWAP. So there's QQQ. Let's take a look at this on the daily chart. And we'll pick it up over here. Okay, again, like I said earlier in the script, all right, everybody made a higher high and a higher low, closing over a bullish trap. See the 3 on top of the 8, on top of the 17, over a bullish trap, over the hooking 17. See the 17 hooking? See, it goes from red, and now it starts to hook with the green right there. Okay, both of them up over their all-time high anchored VWAPs. That's this pink line up over the midpoint. That's the green dash line knocking on the door of the upper third right up there. Okay, so in the upper third, can they break into it? We'll see. Maybe a pullback, maybe we consolidate. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll find out later today. Okay, so there's QQQ in an uptrend. Here's a low. Notice the higher low. There's a high. Notice the higher high. Higher low, higher high. That's an uptrend. Okay, not in the lower third, not in the upper third. So it's just neutral through there. Okay, same with SPY. All right, notice this is this purple line right here up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Again, not in the upper third, not in the lower third. So it's just neutral right now. Okay, so let's take a look at Diamond Dow. All right, Diamond Dow. Again, like I said, they all got higher highs and higher lows, closing over bullish traps, over hooking. See, they go from red to green. Same thing here. Hooking 17 EMAs, okay? A little bit different here on Diamond Dow, all right? Notice we're under the all-time high anchored VWAP, but we're over the uptrend line, the downtrend line right there. So nice work on Diamond Dow. Again, not in the upper third, not in the lower third, just neutral right here on the bullish side of the midpoint right there on Diamond Dow. Okay, we'll see if they get some follow through. Let's take a look at IWM, aka the Russell 2000. Okay, the Russell 2000 was in the lower third until Friday when they had a breakout. Notice, higher low, higher high. Again, over the bullish trap, over the hooking 17, okay? But under the all-time high anchored VWAP, just like Diamond Dow, okay? Under the midpoint right here, Diamond Dow's above it, I think, if I can remember. All right, under that. So no longer in the lower third, definitely not in the upper third, just neutral through here. Okay, are they in an uptrend? No, they're not. The reason they're not in an uptrend, in order to negate their downtrend, they have to take out a high that went up over the 17. Okay, now this is the first high that went up over the 17 right there. Okay, so haven't done it yet. So they have to come all the way up here to take out that high, and then they would negate the downtrend that they're currently in. All right, notice they're in a downtrend, but they're not moving down. Okay, if they got up here, they would negate the downtrend. It's just a label. All right, and convert the uptrend right there. So in other words, good chances if they hit that pink line, they probably take out that high. So we'll see where they go from here, all right, today. There's IWMs. Take a look at FNGA. Now, we follow FNGA because it's got 10 of the most heavily weighted stocks inside the QQQ and the SPY. And that's pretty much all I trade, is the SPY and the QQQ. I don't chase the latest and greatest and the fastest or whatever, or, you know, the big leader for today. I don't chase that. I stick with something with really very liquid, and I can get in and I can get out. Remember, I'm not looking for picking the top. I'm not looking for picking the bottom. Okay, all I want to do is play that I just want to play that fat 10-minute trend inside the top and the bottom. That's all I want to do. Could be a 10-minute uptrend, could be a 10-minute downtrend. I want that meaty section in the middle. All right, that's all I want to trade. I'm not interested in picking the high of the day or the low of the day. Okay, I make most of my money with my 10-minute trend in the middle of the day. Okay, so this is the FNGA. Again, this is 10 of the most heavily weighted stocks inside the QQQ and the SPY. So these 10 securities, when they move as a pack, are so powerful, okay, that they can jerk those two indexes wherever they go. In other words, in the S&P 500, you could have 480 stocks or securities, okay, moving in the southern direction, and if this is moving up, the index will go up, okay, believe it or not. And in the NASDAQ 100, you could have 85, 90 securities moving down. But if these 10, when they move as a pack, are moving up, they will jerk the NASDAQ or the QQQ up. All right, believe it or not. But that's just how much they're weighted inside there. Okay, so, and I think it's like Meta, Microsoft, Google. It's all of the big boys. Okay. All the big boys are in there, all right? So there's FNGA. So I went through the Fabulous 5. That's the SPY, the Diamond Dow, the QQQ, the Russell 2000, and that's it, FNGA right there. You know, Mel, I can understand that Mel says something. Good morning, John. I'm on the road today, so it's not easy to access my charts. What's my pivot for SPY? I'm in the middle of an open house, but I will definitely get to that, Mel. Okay. I'm also in the middle of my monologue in the morning. Okay, but I will take care of you. All right, before I leave today. Okay, and I'm sorry. I wish you had time to catch my monologue and see all my charts. All right. So there's FNGA. All right. Let's take a look at our technicals for today. All right, let's take a look. T2122. Okay, remember we're just looking at Friday's price action. We don't know what's going to happen today. You can see Friday's price action was way up there in the overbought zone. This is a 15-minute chart of the T2122 from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, or almost from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. For a nanosecond, we were in the buy zone, and then we ripped up here to spend the rest of the day leaning on the overbought zone. T2123. Okay, zoom in here. Green from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. Again, we got a bullish gap up. All right, notice the bears didn't fill that gap. All right, so that's a bullish environment. Okay, price makes a higher low and a higher high. That's only on the 15-minute chart, though. That's a bullish environment. Closing up over this hooking 200 SMA, that's a bullish environment. Anytime I see consolidation over prior consolidation, okay, that's a bullish environment. Notice the consolidation over prior consolidation here, okay? A lot of consolidation over prior consolidation. Okay, so all of those are bullish environments right there. Anytime the bears can't fill a bullish gap, that's a bullish environment. Now, if you look at today's price action in the pre-market, you can see that the bears have already started to fill Friday's bullish gap on the SPY. All right, so keep your head on a swivel, all right, because we could be headed down to maybe 555 today. We'll see what happens. Okay, so there's T2123, 15-minute chart. What I do like about this, they finally made, let's get this, trash that. Okay, zoom out. Okay, see this high right here? They finally made a higher high of significance. Okay, notice they got up over that yesterday, or excuse me, Friday, right there. Okay, before we were looking at a big long mini bull flag with a fabric of the flag was 10 times as long as the flagpole. Okay. All right. If we look at this from a zoom way out, this is a bear flag. So we got a little mini bull flag inside of a bear flag. But notice price starting to hook, starting to get a breakout. We'll see how far they can continue with that. Okay, and it'd be nice to see them fill this bearish gap up here and this bearish gap right there. Okay, there's a little bearish gap just over where they consolidated. See right here? Okay, just up over that, there's a bearish gap. Nice, like to see them fill that gap too. All right, so looking good there on the 15-minute chart. Okay, finally taking out a high of significance. On the 3-bar chart, okay, notice price action. See the V bottom here? Okay, see the V bottom goes from red to green. All right, but guess what? We made a lower high. See, there's the all-time high. We made a lower high, okay, right underneath the rolling 200 SMA. And then we turn the dots from green to red, okay? When price is up over, all right, over the 17 EMA, it stays green. When it gets underneath it, it turns red, okay? So we made a lower high, all right? Typically, when you make a lower high, the bears are inspired to make a lower low, and they did. See, here's a low. We made a lower low. And then it turned into a bear flag. Let's just look at this and call it what it is, okay? Then we lingered in here for over a month, all right? And people got antsy and nervous, okay? And then hedge funds and all kinds of fund managers got nervous. And they said, you know, I don't want to be the last one standing when the music stops. So then what happened is you get selling, all right? And then selling begets more selling. And then hence now we're down here in this little mini bull flag inside of a bear flag right there on the bigger picture. That is a bear flag. Okay, so I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's what it looks like what happened, okay? We're underneath the 200 SMA on the 3-bar chart. We're underneath these two prior all-time highs, and you can see this all-time high. Okay, notice when price came down, we V-bottom bounced there, but when we came down this time, no V-bottom bounce. It just kind of went down and lingered way too long. Again, you linger way too long, and people start to give up hope, and then you got selling begets more selling, and you get another leg or a wave of selling coming to the downside. Okay, that's not happening right now because we're starting to make some higher highs. Okay, notice that. See the high? They made a higher high, so that's good news. There's T2123. Okay, FNGA. Okay, price action for Friday. Okay, you can see here's the second right here. Okay, so buying, all right, from the beginning of the day, almost to the end of the day, and then it looks like they started an early weekend, and they got a 4 martini head start on us right there. Okay, so up over VWAP, all right. Again, consolidation over prior consolidation is bullish. Okay, that's consolidation up over prior consolidation. It's a bullish environment right there. Up over the 200, also a bullish environment. Maybe we get a pullback to this area right here today. We'll see what happens. We're up over this, maybe a pullback to there. Okay, I think we do. I think we get a pullback to this area right here. Okay, right on top of this minor support right through here. Okay, that would not surprise me to see that, and I would like to see a V-bottom bounce off of that. That's what I'd like to see. I don't know that I'll get it, but that's what I would be looking for today, given the bearish flag that we're looking at early in the morning right here. Okay, and again, we've got consolidation in the pre-market under prior consolidation. All right, whereas this is a bullish environment, this is a bearish environment. So they just negated the bullish environment up there. Okay, so there's FNGA. All right, let's take a look at a few sectors. Okay, first sector we're going to take a peek at, CXLE. That's our energy sector. Let's get that stuff off of there. Okay, and let's go back to FNGA. And let's pick up this chart over here, and then we're going to try XLE. All right, XLE. Okay, this is our energy sector. Okay, notice, okay, on this one, see how we're in the lower third? That's bearish. In the lower third is bearish. In the upper third is bullish. In the middle is neutral for me. All right, that's the way it works for me. Okay, we're still in a downtrend. All right, if we take out this high right there, we could negate the downtrend and convert the uptrend. It's not a very high bar that's been set for this high jump. Okay, it's a really low bar. All right, they could probably do it in an hour if they choose to. All right, but very low bar right there to take out that high. All right, but currently they're in a downtrend because they haven't made a higher high. They have made higher lows right here and right here, okay? Yet to make a higher high over the 17. Okay, still caught underneath. Okay, this is a 12-month high anchored VWAP right there. Still caught underneath. See this gold line, downtrend line 1, downtrend line 2. Still caught underneath the midpoint. Again, in the lower third, all right? Still bearish, all right? So in a downtrend and still bearish. All right, let's take a look at USO. All right, USO, notice in quadrant 4, that's bearish. All right, USO, here's a high, there's a lower high, there's a low, there's a lower low. Definitely a downtrend. If they take out this high that pokes up through the 17, they could negate the downtrend. Okay, yesterday's price action is an inside day. Okay, that's a lower high and a higher low, closing under the bearish trap. This is a bearish trap because the 3 is underneath the 8. All right, got a lot of visitors here today. I want to explain it as we go along. Okay, so it's a bearish trap. The 3 is under the 8. Okay, under the falling 17. So in a downtrend and bearish down here in quadrant 1. Okay, and even moving lower in the pre-market. So there's USO. Let's take a look at UNG. All right, UNG for Friday's price action, higher low, higher high, closing over a bullish trap, closing over a flat 7, or actually a falling 17 EMA there. Okay, no longer in the lower third. All right, notice they were in the lower third, they're not anymore. Okay, so they're in the neutral zone right here at the midpoint, still underneath a downtrend line. And still in a downtrend because they made a lower high. See the high up here? They made a lower high. All right, and they made a lower low. Maybe this is another lower high. We'll see. Unless, of course, they rally all the way back up here to take out that high. And they could do it. If they take that out, they will negate the downtrend. Remember, it's just a label. Okay, we'll see what happens. There's UNG, neutral, but still in a downtrend. UNG is up over this 12-month high anchored VWAP there. All right, we'll see if they get a pullback, if they can hold the higher ground up here. So there's UNG. Let's take a look at precious metals. Here's GLD. All right, GLD got a higher low and a higher high, but a red candle. Okay, still a higher low and a higher high. Closed underneath a bearish trap, underneath the 17, underneath, see the pink line? That's the all-time high anchored VWAP. Underneath, all right, that's not underneath, but in quadrant number 4, way up here at the top, high flyer there, okay, that's bullish, all right, because it's up there in quadrant 4. That's bullish up there. It's in the upper third, okay, still in an uptrend. Here's a low. They made a higher low. There's a high, there's a higher high. So they made higher highs and higher lows. Still in an uptrend, still bullish, still over the uptrend line. That's GLD. Let's take a look at SLV. Price action here. What do we got? Outside day, lower low, higher high. Closing under bearish trap, under the 17 EMA. They were in the upper third, notice. Not Friday when they closed. Okay, so they're neutral. They look like they're climbing back in this morning. See that up there? Price action over here is climbing back into the upper third. Okay, so they're neutral. They're still in a downtrend. Okay, because This low took out that low, that low, that low right there. See them all? They poke through the 17, all right, and this low, and even this low way over here. Okay, they made a lower low. So it took out all these lows, put them in a downtrend. Okay, so they got to make a higher high. Well, where's the last high over the 17? It's way up here. How far have they got? Right here. Okay, so now they're putting in a higher low right now. And if they put in that higher low and bounce with a V-bottom bounce back up here and take out this high, they'll be in an uptrend. And they will negate the downtrend. Okay, remember? They're in a downtrend, but they weren't moving down. Okay, only these past 4 days have they been moving down. Okay, so there's SLV putting in a possible lower high right there. We'll see what happens. Or is it a higher low? We'll find out. So there's time SLV. Let's take a look at SMH. All right, SMH, no longer in the lower third. It's neutral, closing over the trap. All right, but underneath, pink line, that's the all-time high anchored VWAP. Underneath, the downtrend line. SMH, here's the high. All right, they made a higher high. That puts them in an uptrend. Here's a low. There's a higher low. They're in an uptrend. They're still underneath the downtrend line. They're still underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP. They're not in the lower third, so they're just neutral through here. So let's take a look at Big Brother to the SMH. That's XLK. All right, that's a technology sector. Notice the Big Brother's a little stronger, a little more fortitude. All right, see it way up here. Okay, so there's XLK. Again, higher low, higher high. See the high up over the 17? They made a higher high. So here's Big Brother. He's closing over this all-time high anchored VWAP. Nice 4-day pop right there. See that? Anytime you can get price to hold for 4 or 5 days over the all-time high anchored VWAP in a pattern, in a grinder pattern like this, a grinder box, okay, where they're just grinding away at overhead supply. All right, look for that 4th or 5th day pop right there. See that? Nice pop right there. Okay, kind of, and trying to knock on the door to the bullish upper third. Not quite there yet. Just neutral. Still underneath the backside of this uptrend line. But still looking good. Looking real good. Okay, in an uptrend there. Okay, that's XLK. Let's take a look at XLF. Again, 3 or 4 days. Okay, up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. What do you get? See that grinder box pop right there where they just grind away at the overhead supply, and before you know it, they popped a hole and they break through. Okay, there's XLF. Price action, that's bullish. It's in the upper third. Okay, got a higher low and a higher high. Okay, that's an uptrend. Okay, and up over the all-time high anchored VWAP. Looking real good up here in the upper third, XLF on the daily chart and in an uptrend. All right, so we got XLK looking good, but not quite in the upper third yet, but looking good. XLF already there. Let's take a look at transports. All right, transports made it out of the bearish zone. Okay, they were in the lower 1/3 down here, the lower third. Finally made it out after multiple days right here. Got a higher low and a higher high. Closing in the neutral zone, but still underneath the all-time high anchored VWAP. Still underneath the midpoint. Okay, a little bit. You need a little bit more push on this. They're in an uptrend now. Barely. All right. I don't know if I'm not going to call that. I don't know if I can call that an uptrend because it really just moved to the side. I'm just going to keep them in a downtrend. They need to take out this high right here. That's the one over the 17. If they could take that out, they could negate the if it's an uptrend, it's a really weak uptrend, okay? Because the bar wasn't really set that high, and the pullback wasn't deep enough, all right? But irregardless, you could call it an uptrend as a pullback to here, all right? I guess, you know what? I'll give it to them. Uptrend on IYT, okay? But no longer in the bearish zone. So in the neutral zone, okay, we need them to get up over the midpoint. We'll see what happens. There's the transports. Let's take a look at our economic calendar or our economic package. All right, SPY max pain for today. That's the puts and calls that expired today. How they changed it. Okay, I don't know how they could do that. 556 is max pain for the SPY's puts and calls that expired today. It was 555 yesterday or early this morning. Okay, and the put to call ratio, they changed that too. All right, so that's 1.28. So 1.25 puts for each call, and the max pain number is 556. I think they'll probably go for it today. So there's max pain. Let's take a look at the dollar. Dollar's in a downtrend, making lower highs and lower lows. All right, price action closed last night, late last night, down here around, right around 100, right around 100, 99.99 or 100.02. Right there. Still in a downtrend and in a bear flag. And they broke major support right here. Okay, this would have been minor support. These two humps. This valley right here is the major support. They're underneath it and consolidating underneath it. Good work on the dollar. Okay, let's take a look at earnings and then we'll hit the economic calendar. Okay, for today we got Platner is going to report tonight. Veritex is going to report tonight. Williams Company is going to report tonight. Okay, the big ones: Platner, 272 billion. Then Veritex Pharmaceuticals, 128 billion. All right, let's take a look on Tuesday. All right, we've got AMD. Okay, their graphics chips along with CPUs. All right, 156 billion. They're going to report tomorrow night. Okay, Ferrari's going to report tomorrow morning. They're 111 billion. Arista Networks going to report tomorrow night along AMD. All right, they're 110 billion. Everybody else, just familiar names. They're really not going to move the markets, but they probably will make some effect on their sector. You can see familiar names: Duke Energy, Constellation Energy, Marriott, American Electric Power. Okay, all familiar names, but not really market movers. Okay, so let's take a look at Wednesday. Wednesday we got Novo Nordisk. All right, they're going to report. I think they were earlier last week. 309 billion. They're going to report in the morning on Wednesday. Uber, 178 billion. They're going to report in the morning on Wednesday with Novo Nordisk. Disney is going to report in the morning as well, 167 billion. Okay. ARM Holdings, 128 billion in the evening. Mercado Libre, 115 billion in the evening. Apploven, 104 billion in the evening. So all these three are in the evening, and the first three are in the morning. On Thursday, Shopify, 125 billion. They're going to report in the morning. I would have thought in the evening. But they're going to report in the morning as well with Shopify, 116 billion. ConocoPhillips, 115 billion in the morning. McKesson, 88 billion. They're going to report in the evening on Friday. Just want to make sure I don't have anything else. Enbridge, 102 billion is going to report in the morning. And the first three, I don't know if they can find their P&Ls or not ready yet. Okay, so there's the earnings calendar. Nothing really notable on the earnings. I think everybody, all the big boys reported last week. So let's take a look at the economic calendar. Okay, we do got some main events this week on the economic calendar. Okay, we got FOMC announcement at 2 p.m. on Wednesday and a little presser at 2:30. Okay, and today we got PMI composite final, 9:45. ISM services index, 10 o'clock. And the rest of the day is a wash. Tuesday we got, that's tomorrow, international trades and goods and services, 8:30. And the rest of the day is the wash. The main event's Wednesday. Okay, we got a petroleum report at 10:30. That's normal. All right, FOMC at 2 p.m. That's normal. And a little presser, 2:30 afterwards. I don't know how they're going to deal with this with all the pre-tariffs. I'm sure they're on pins and needles as well, figuring out what's this guy going to do. All right, it makes their job more difficult. I think they want certainty just as much as we do. All right, and I think if they got it, they could have a good idea what to do. Right now, I think they're just kind of like saying, well, we're just going to remain hawkish. That's what I would expect them to say. I wouldn't expect them to change a darn thing. All right, not with, not knowing what's going to happen in the future. So I would expect not much change, but probably they're going to give you an EKG, a blip up to the top and a blip down to the bottom, and they'll probably finish off. And right in the middle, where they started the whole thing from. Okay, so I wouldn't expect too much out of the FOMC because they don't know, just like we don't know, unless of course they got the president's ear and maybe they know something. All right, I doubt it though. All right, Thursday got jobless claims at 8:30, productivity and cost 8:30, wholesale inventories 10, gas report 10:30, and the rest of the day's a wash. Friday, you got a rig count at 1, and the rest of the day is a wash, okay? So the main event's going to be Wednesday. All right, someone said no sound. Walter, you need to refresh, and he probably can't even hear me. Ed took care of it. Thank you, Ed. All right, and Mel asked a question. Good morning, John. I'm on the road, okay? Access to my charts. My pivot for SPY today. Okay, my pivot, Mel, if you're listening, I hope you're listening, okay, because this is easy, okay? This is so easy. You don't even have to ask me because it's all right here, okay? You just scroll up, right up here, and in the script, what does it say? My pivot is 566.40, right there, okay? It's written right there. All you got to do is open up the picture and read it, okay? If you can't see it there, you come down to the next picture, says the game plan. SPY pivot is 566.40 right there. All right, and if you can't see it there, this one right here in the green, 566.40. And there's one below it in the red, 566.40. It's like written 5 times, all right? It's there. You just got to look for it. That's it, okay? All right, I'll take questions in the room. If not, I'm going to render my video so I can get it out to Cyberland, Podcast Land. All right? And I hate to say this, I hate to do this to you, but there's some other people that like to have presentations in the morning, and a lot of my members are members of other rooms, so I want them to be able to hear the other instructors as well. So I go radio silent for about 35, 40 minutes, okay? But I'm still here. Okay, I didn't abandon you, all right? I am still here for you, all right? And I will be back in 30 minutes, okay? All right, and we will pick it up and we will prep for the market open that happens at 9:30, okay? All right, but I am going to have to go radio silent for that 30 minutes so members of both services can go listen to the other guy, okay? Okay, I didn't abandon you. I still have much love for you. All right. I will see you all in 30 minutes. Thanks, Mike. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, yeah. Oh, one more thing. By the way, did you see Ed? Ed posted pre-tariff pricing, okay, on our trials. This is pre-tariff pricing, $7. You can get a 30-day trial and hang out with me with the special pre-tariff pricing of $7, okay? I don't know what happens when the tariffs come out, but just saying, if you want to get in now.